lovelies. So today we're going to talk a little bit about bravery and unblocking some of the blocks and resistance around it. So this is the part where we get to like the emotional crap part of finding out why it's so hard to be brave and doing some mindset shifting so that we can invoke more of our desires to come out into fruition, and we can put that action behind them so that they can come out into fruition. So the very first thing that I feel like we have to understand when it comes to being brave is understanding what courage actually is. So courage and bravery aren't necessarily rising up and saying everything's going to work out perfect and nothing's going to go wrong and I'm going to have zero resistance and I'm going to take action and it's going to go great, because if I'm in alignment it should be easy and it shouldn't be any resistance and no pain and we'll go forward. That's not it at all. Anybody who's had a massive challenge that they've overcome knows that sometimes being brave is knowing that it's going to be hard and doing it anyways, to knowing that you're scared out of your mind and then doing it anyways. Why? Because something is more important. There's something that's fueling it deep down. If we think of being a warrior doesn't fight because they like to fight. They fight because there's something inside that is so compelling and so passion-filled that they would rather die than either succumb, live with, go without, or allow something to happen. And it's the same thing with our own bravery. There are things that we get to move forward with that we would rather die than do without. Things like feeling joy and free, to be able to have our gift that's out there. A really powerful meditation that a dear friend of mine shared with me that she does every year for her birthday is she does a death meditation where she takes a moment and she envisions dying and how she would feel if she died this moment, if this was her last birthday. And in that moment, what's going through your head? Where are the regrets? Where are the things that you wish you had shared with the world that you haven't yet? If you haven't noticed yet, this kit is very much about sharing your gifts with the world, that masculine energy, that giving your seed of physical seed, yes, but also creative endeavors and joyful expression and bits of your light that you're sharing with the world. So if we're diving into all of this, it's important to understand, well, what is it that I am so passionate about that if I died right now, I would regret never doing? Because that'll probably tell you what means the most to you right then. Is there a conversation that needs to be had and maybe you haven't been feeling brave enough to have that conversation? Is there forgiveness that needs to come into play, but you haven't been brave enough because you're afraid that you'll just get hurt again? Sometimes by offering the forgiveness or having the conversation, we realize that we gain wisdom and understanding deeper than we ever would have thought. Or we're brave enough to venture on our own and say, my life is better without you and I love you, but I'm going over here. You can sing while you do it too. But understanding what is the core thing. So is it, for me, I mentioned this in the Crystal Grid video, it would be finishing my book, Reclaiming the Drum. Actually finishing probably 7 of my books. If I died tomorrow, I would be sad. So that's probably why I put such a push behind it, because if I were to go, that's the thing I would regret. And I feel like everybody knows I love them, but not everybody knows the things that I'm trying to convey to the world. And so being able to share that would be my regret. So that tells me the thing I need to be bravest most. That thing I need to be bravest most in is maybe submitting the book to some publishers, or being brave enough to self-publish, or being brave enough to announce a release date. Sometimes those things require a lot of bravery, or even brave enough for allowing myself to be exposed and say, you know what, some of this is from me, some of this is channeled, and I'm this crazy person. Love you guys, but you'll read it and you'll love it and you'll be crazy with me. So pulling into what it is that you are holding back on because you feel like it won't be received well, because that's all bravery is it's moving forward even though we don't have the outcome that is certain. Or maybe we do know the certain outcome and it's not actually what we want. Sometimes that's the bravest thing, is going into battle knowing that you're not going to win. Speaking up and voicing something even though nothing's going to change. I recently had an experience with my daughter in school, and she's on the spectrum and hasn't been getting the support she needed that I thought she was getting, and it turns out wasn't the case. And some really hard things happened, and going in and having conversations with people knowing it's not going to change anything and she's not going to feel any more joy by me having these conversations. However, with my with my beautiful blue kyanite truth speaking and alignment necklace on, I went in there and I voiced what I had to voice, and most of it came out emotional and blubbery, I'm not gonna lie, but at least it came out, at least a plan's in place, and at least children in the future won't have the same experience, or are less likely to. And so sometimes speaking up isn't to speak to heal your world, it's to heal the world or prevent the world from somebody else. And sometimes that's the bravest thing, is to offer our hearts and our efforts and stand up for people even when we will never see the results of it or never benefit from it. And our children probably won't even benefit from it, but somebody else's children will. In order to know where we stand and what it is that we're having to pull in that bravery for, understanding the why behind the bravery will help in times of struggle or challenge or second guessing. I don't know that there's ever been something big that I've done that at one point or another I went, this is crazy. Why am I even doing this? I don't even need this. I don't need this. I don't need to spread this with the world. Nope, I'll just keep it for myself. I'll just stay small. And that's our shadow side. That's our conscious and our unconscious trying to keep us contained and keep us small and keep us safe. Because if you only experience things that you've already experienced, then you'll know how to handle those things. The interesting thing, though, is that we do that with pain, too. So this thing was painful for me once, so this thing is always going to be painful for me, which isn't true. Things that are painful, we learn through. We regret sometimes. We woulda, coulda, shoulda ourselves. we go through all of these scenarios, but then we forget a lot of the times that through that nasty, hard process, we learned. And in that learning, we either won't put ourselves in the situation again, or we'll react different. People will be different. If it's, say, relationships, and it's like, oh, I can't be brave enough for a relationship again because last time this happened and I got burned. And it's like, yeah, but you saw the red flags and you ignored them. Now you see red flags and you pay attention. Guess what? You've evolved. And so looking at how is this different from the past? How have I evolved? Sometimes will help us to get over that hump of fear and not moving forward. But remembering that just because you're afraid doesn't mean you're out of alignment. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you're out of alignment. Sometimes it means you are right exactly where you need to be because you're finally putting passion and desire and action to something that needed to come forward or needed to happen, but you never had enough gumption to do it because you were allowing yourself to feel fear and stay stuck in the fear. Bravery is stepping forward without that certainty of safety, which we all love, but sometimes anchoring into, wait a minute though, am I aligned? Am I being guided? Is spirit with me? Is God with me? Do I feel like I have angels that walk beside me, either physically or non-physically? Do I feel like support is there? And do I feel like my journey is in alignment? I am on the path and doing everything that I feel called to do? Well, yeah. Okay, then. I can be brave knowing whatever happens is meant to be. And that's where we get into like destiny. If you are destined for something great, sometimes you have to go through a lot of trials and challenges to get to that great thing. That's how we become experts at things. I had a lot of emotional crap, so therefore I learned how to help people and identify their emotional crap so we can move it and clear it and heal it. So your mess becomes your message. A lot of us have heard that. But sometimes we'll come in and we'll have that self-sabotage kick in. And the self-sabotage says, well, if this was alignment, it would be easy. If this was alignment, then I wouldn't have people doubting me. I wouldn't have things fall through. Recently, we had a women's retreat and we had to change locations 3 times. Now, does that mean that the women's retreat was not in alignment? No. Does that mean that I was not in alignment by picking that place? No. Does that mean that probably what happened was the energies changed and people said yes, and then people got scared, and then people shifted, and maybe there was a place that was open that I didn't know was open, and I wasn't open to opening it until we go through all of those paths and all of those steps, and suddenly our perspective shifts and we're open to something. Or maybe somebody, because we had people who canceled last minute, and then people who came in last minute, and then people who had canceled that wanted to actually come in after all. And so it was a lot of like whirlwindy chaos for a minute. But a lot of that is that dance of the self-sabotage that comes up when resistance comes up and we're stepping into something different, something new, something we've never done before. It can be scary, and we can go, wait a minute, this isn't me, this isn't what I do, I'm not that type of person, or I'm not the person who has that done to them, so this doesn't align with how I see myself, so I'm going to sabotage and go back into my little box. I don't need to be brave today. But that's actually just keeping us stuck and stopped. And so that's where I say, if we find the why, the what's behind, what is your purpose in moving forward and needing to muster up this bravery? What is the thing that you ache that doesn't exist? Or if you died right now, it would be the one thing you were like, you know what, I really wish I would have stepped up and done this, said this, tried this, experimented with it, put myself out there, was vulnerability, whatever the thing is. And then asking yourself, okay, well, now that I know what the thing is, what is the reason behind it? Like, why is it so important? So for me, if I died tomorrow and I didn't finish my book, Reclaiming the Drawing, it would make me really sad, because I feel like there's a lot of corruption and confusion and sacred things that are not honored sacredly, and sacred things that are poured out. And just, highest bidder gets this healing. You are healed, now move on, and so there's a lot of that has gone on over many years, and not specific people, but just it's gone on a lot, and a lot of forgotten wisdoms, right? And so if I had these wisdoms right in my hands and I chose to just bury them and never share them, then that would break my heart, because that would mean nothing changed. And people would have to go through all the pain I went through, and all the struggle and the challenge and the questioning, in order to find the same information, where I could have just passed the baton of information, and then they could have ran to it and took it deeper. And that's my wish, and that's my hope, is that each of us are like a little baton. Or maybe some of us just run the whole race, and that's even better. So tuning into the why, maybe your bravery is, finding a relationship, or choosing to open your heart up. Well, I've been hurt so many times, why would I do that? And, the deeper piece is, well, if I died tomorrow and I didn't have that, it would be sad, because I know it's possible. And I know I would love the experience of feeling loved unconditionally, and having a partner or a soulmate that we could connect and amplify and make each other better. And I would hate to leave this life not getting to experience the joyful part of love, now that I've only had the toxic side of love. Because everything we've experienced that's negative, there's something equally positive on the other side of it, just like a pendulum that swings back and forth. And sometimes when we get into the trying to decide our why, we can get stuck in the fear. So let me just talk a little bit on fear. So fear is a topic that so many of us pull into for so many reasons. But one of the things that comes up a lot for me is suddenly we'll have a fear of feeling an emotion, or a fear of an event. And what happens when we fear something obsessively is we actually lie in bed at night. And while we're lying in bed, our brain is thinking about all these scenarios where we'll feel this horrible thing. And then we think about what we would do and how we would handle it and what they would do and then what we would do and then and you come up with a whole scenario all in your head. The hard part with this is that it doesn't matter who you are. If you think about something and you put emotion with it and you're playing it over in your head, it's just like watching a movie. You still get that dump of emotions. Your body doesn't realize it's not real, and it thinks it is, and you're making yourself feel like crap. You're making yourself feel all these emotions and go through this experience over and over and over again. Most of the time, the events don't even happen, and when they do, you don't even handle them that way. You forget, and you get all emotional and blubbered, blah, 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 and you don't even do anything about it. So it's actually a higher path and vibration to allow yourself to say, oh, whatever happens, I'll handle it. You know what? I really hate feeling unloved and having men do this to me. However, whatever happens, I'll handle it. I'll see red flags earlier. I will ask questions. I will, you know, maybe voice what I need rather than making somebody else have to assume what I need. I will do all the things I can to make sure that I am educated. So if I'm given the same scenario or these emotions that I hate feeling, I will know not only how to handle it, but how to move through it quickly. And the reason you do know you can move through it quickly and you can handle it is because you already have. You didn't combust from feeling these challenging situations or challenging emotions. You actually survived and you figured it out, and you probably became better for it, and you probably could advise somebody else exactly what to do if they called you up with the same scenario. So I can't say how many times I see women and men who are these massive experts, and they're massive experts because they have massive pain. But then if they were to face that pain again, they know what to do because they've done it so many times. So the thing you fear the most is probably the thing you're an expert at. So maybe take a moment and reflect, like, okay, what is the thing I fear the most? How would I handle that? Do I fear it because I've already had to handle it? Oh yeah, okay. Well, how did I handle it? Would I handle it again in the future? Yeah. Would I probably do it faster? Yeah. Do I know who to reach out to when I need help? Yeah. Oh, okay. So there's probably nothing to fear. No. How about we think about something else? Okay. Let's think about what we actually want. Bring that in. Also, it's important to understand that bravery is not about fighting someone. It's about healing. It's about rising. It's about moving forward with purpose. Sometimes we get people who get stuck and I'm brave and here's all my stuff and I'm just going to make everybody hear my political views and my huge fight for this country and the government. Because we've all met people like that. And if you're one of those people, I still love you, I promise. And anybody who comes within earshot, they get to hear this whole rampage of what I should do with my vote or my time, and it almost becomes this toxic gaslighting, right? You all must think this way. Don't you think this way? If you don't, you know, I'm against you, and I'm just speaking my truth in my voice. And it's like, well, actually, you are speaking a regurgitation, you're speaking opinion, and you're actually not engaged in understanding and connection. So sometimes we avoid being brave because we don't want to be like those people. If you are worried that you will come across too much, too intense, too open, too brave, too pushy, it's very, very, very unlikely you ever will. Because people who are pushy and arrogant and gaslight, they don't stop and think, oh no, am I too pushy? They just push and they're like, oh no, I'm justified. I'm justified. I'm justified. So somebody out there needed to hear that little piece. It just like zinged through. So allowing yourself to give yourself permission to let it be messy, to let it be beautiful, to let what needs to flow, flow, and to trust yourself that you can be brave and you can rise. And if things get hard or don't turn out the way you expect, you will still be brave and you will still rise, and you're still on the path. The path to enlightenment is often a zigzag, spiral, bouncing up and down, squiggles. It's not ever a straight line. And letting go of that expectation that it has to be in order to be aligned definitely helps move through it. I love you, and I hope this helps to clear out some of those fears and blocks we have around bravery. I do recommend grabbing out your quill and your parchment paper and your bloodstone and writing out your why. Why? Why are you rising up? What are you rising up for, first of all? And why is it so important? What's the heart piece? Not, oh, I think it would be the next logical decision. Well, why would you want a logical decision? Why would you want anything to be different? What would you want it to look like? Maybe write a letter. You can even write it, address it to me if you want, and say, I'm so excited about my dream. Here's what's happening. Even if it hasn't happened yet, it's fine. Do you know, about 15 years ago, I wrote a letter to myself in 10 years. You would not believe the parallels of, or maybe you would believe it. I have to remember who I'm talking to. But the parallels of what I called in, and I wrote a letter as if I was writing it to a friend. I didn't address it to a friend. I just started with, hello, friend. Oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. And although my relationship status had changed and rechanged, my financial place had changed and rechanged, my career, like so many things shifted drastically. What remained the same was the emotions I felt and the actual things I received. So I talked about my love life and the kind of love I have with my husband at the time. Now the husband went away, but I was able to have that love with a new partner with like a literal 7-year gap. So you can imagine if I read it on year 6, be like, oh my gosh, this is never going to happen. But calling in exactly what you want. What would it taste like? What would it look like? What would it feel like? What would an everyday experience be for you? Writing those things out in your pretty little calligraphy pen, or maybe drawing a beautiful design, something that radiates and says, yes, this is what I see bravery as. This is what I see myself going forward and conquering, in spite of all the fear, in spite of the odds against me, in spite of it not being done this way before, or this person tried it and it didn't work, but I'm not that person, and neither are you. So I'm really excited to hear what you're creating, what you're rising towards, and I love you. Thank you for watching.